Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Tuesday's show. You're thinking, haven't we been here already, Mick? Yes, I tried to do this video on a live stream today. Unfortunately, my internet is not strong enough, so I won't be doing live videos until I've got stronger internet. So we're going to attempt to do a take 2 of today's talking points, which are, very shortly we'll be discussing what it will take to restore the Snyderverse. Is Zaslav restoring the Snyderverse? And what is going on with the future of DC live action? Jordan Eslas has spoken out about his shock departure as Jonathan Kent in Superman and Lois, and very interesting those words were too. We are now hearing that Matt Reeves, Bruce Timm and J.J. Abrams and Batman the Animated Series has been cancelled by HBO Max and will be broadcast elsewhere. At the moment, we don't know where that is. And we'll be discussing the 2 Batman directors who tried to salvage footage of Batgirl on their iPhone. That's all to come on today's show here on Movies TV Mad. In discussing the Snyderverse and the DCEU, I think we should go back to the beginning, just in case there's some new people interested in this franchise. So in 2013, a brand new DC live-action franchise was launched. Man of Steel, a Superman film. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, its sequel. The Suicide Squad, allegedly directed by David Ayer. We then found out it wasn't Ayer's movie, and Jeff Johns rewrote the movie and made Ayer reshoot that movie. That we then had Wonder Woman, one of the best CBMs ever made. Then we had a film called Justice League, but we nicknamed it politely, friendly, well, it's not really polite or friendly, Justice League. Basically, they sacked Zack Snyder and they didn't show his Justice League movie. They decided to rewrite, reshoot it and make a sitcom out of it. They wanted to make a Marvel movie out of Zack's Justice League movie. We had a big long fight for 3 years. We had a campaign, and finally we saw the Snyder Cut. That's what we fought for, the original Justice League movie. It's one of the greatest films ever made, a 4-hour epic. So originally after Justice League, it was Aquaman, another really impressive film. This was directed by James Wan, who consulted heavily with Zack Snyder, even though Zack wasn't officially still involved with the DCEU. He always gets his producer's credits. Then Walter Hamada took over as DC Films president. We got Shazam, a solid, middling family movie. It was okay. Then we had the disastrous Birds of Prey. Then we had the even bigger, more disastrous movie, Wonder Woman 84. Then we had the very good from James Gunn. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and nothing to do with the DCEU. Originally, Ben Affleck was going to make his sequel to BVS with his own Batman movie. It was going to be amazing. But they decided, and the official word was that Ben was suffering with alcoholism, so he couldn't continue writing and directing and starring in his movie, but he was going to still be in the movie, but Matt Reeves was wanted to direct it. Matt Reeves didn't want to do this, wanted to make his own movie, so in a separate self-contained universe, he made the Batman. So that's where we are today. Now, the official DCEU canon has always been within the Snyderverse, which is basically Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, even that Suicide Squad movie, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and even Shazam. But new DC Films president had a plan. He was going to use Barry Allen's Flash Speed Force to rewrite the DC Extended Universe and create a brand new timeline. After Barry saves his mother from dying and comes back, there will be a brand new timeline. Supergirl would have replaced Superman. We would have a Batgirl. You would have Shazam and Aquaman, and most of them in the Justice League, but it will be very, very different. And instead of Ben Affleck as the Batman, Michael Keaton, a 70-year-old man who made Batman and Batman Returns, would be the DCEU's main Batman. Of course, very problematic, very confusing. And David Zaslav, new CEO of Warner Media, sorry, say that again, new CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery also agreed that it was very, very confusing. So, originally, this was going to be the new timeline. So, that's where we are now. When David Zaslav, before David Zaslav took over Warner Brothers, the newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery, I knew it would be a fucking bloodbath. But even I couldn't predict what he was about to do. And we'll get into the Batman animated series situation. He has cancelled Batgirl. Why did he cancel Batgirl? He's given a multitude of reasons. One of the things is the direction they want to go in with DC, the new direction. Also, he wanted to move it to the theatrical system, and he claimed that test audiences told them that it was only the quality of a television pilot. So they cancelled it because he doesn't want Michael Keaton to be the DCEU Batman. Now, several weeks ago, it was announced. I don't know how planned this was, but Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck had taken some pictures together, and it was confirmed that Ben Affleck would be replacing Michael Keaton's cameo in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Are you a bit lost? Why was Michael Keaton the Batman in that movie? Well, I just explained it to you, but I'll say it again, because it's easy to get lost. You see, it's confusing. So, after the Flash movie, from the end of the Flash movie onwards, Michael Keaton was going to be the DCEU's Batman. So, that's why he was going to cameo in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Pretty neat cameo that no one's ever going to see apart from me and a few other test audiences. So, now Ben Affleck replaces Keaton in this movie with his Batman cameo because we're going back, we're scrubbing out the new timeline and Michael Keaton being the DCEU Batman. We're going back to Ben Affleck being the DCEU Batman. Now, several months ago, there were some reshoots. While we were getting distracted with Ezra Miller's antics, Ezra Miller and the rest of the cast went back for reshoots. Now, I don't know if Ben Affleck did anything extra. Now, we're being told, or I'm being told, and here at the channel we're being told that they're going to be doing more extensive reshoots, and the role of Ben Affleck's Batman and Bruce Wayne will become larger in this movie. So, considering Michael Keaton was scrubbed out of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Batgirl was cancelled for one of the reasons, the biggest reasons, that Michael Keaton was the new Batman, and Zaslav didn't want that, and they were going back to the original Snyderverse timeline. So, could it be that Keaton is totally going to be scrubbed out of the Flash movie? Well, here's one of two scenarios that I think this will play out. Either Michael Keaton gets to play his Batman when Barry goes back to save his mother. The timeline changes temporarily until Barry can fix it and get back. And then when he gets back, it's back to the Snyderverse timeline. Or they will scrub out Keaton totally and replace him with Jeffrey D. Morgan's Thomas Wayne, Flashpoint Batman, which is a much better idea. It's a more compelling idea, and what I like about it the most, it's based on Jeff Johns' Flashpoint comics. You do not do this type of a movie and skip over the best beats of the Flashpoint graphic novel, the Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman, the Amazonians against basically Aquaman's people, right? The Atlanteans, right? There's a big war between the Amazonians and the Atlanteans. Basically, in the comic, you know, Wonder Woman is evil, and she gets it on with Aquaman in front of Mira. Imagine that, and the irony with Amber Heard and everything she did to Johnny Depp as well. But yeah, so it's a much more compelling story. I'm sorry. I understand why they were using the Flash movie, using the Flashpoint story to rewrite the DCEU. It's kind of an idea, but you can't make a Flashpoint movie, you know, and overstep the iconic elements of Jeff Johns' graphic novel. Now, of course, it's a graphic novel. You can't basically copy and paste it. That's impossible. But things like the Atlantean and the Amazonian War, and you know the Flashpoint Batman are very important to that story. But all they're focused in is just doing a little bit and resetting the universe. And the idea was that by the end of the movie, the Snyderverse would be trapped in a little parallel window or something on another Earth. Because what you get is, in a post-credit scene, They flipped the scene from BVS when it's Barry coming through mysteriously using his Flash abilities to pre-warn Batman and Bruce Wayne about the nightmare future. But this time, it's Bruce Wayne appearing from nowhere, God knows how, on a screen, telling him, you have to find us. You have to save us. They're trapped somewhere. I assume Cavill and Affleck are both kind of trapped there. So they're basically picking and choosing which Snyderverse DC heroes are trapped there. And because Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman are quite popular with the mainstream audience, they probably wouldn't have been trapped there. They wouldn't have been trapped there, to be specific. So that whole idea now, it seems, is dead. The new timeline is dead. So if the new timeline is dead, and Supergirl doesn't replace Superman, and there's no Leslie Grace Batgirl unless they decide to calm the woke mob down and put her as a cameo in Flash or one of these other upcoming DC movies, because they're going to rework a lot of these movies. I don't think they're going to mess with Black Adam, because we're not far away from that movie being released. But that movie has had a few little tinkerings as well, so it could be well different from if you saw the test screening from the test screening that you saw. So, the timeline they're now sticking to, now that they've done away with the multiverse strategy and the new timeline they were planning, Underwater Armada, they're going back to the original Snyderverse timeline. Now, are you listening? Are you paying attention? Go on, let me know. Do you get what's going on? Anyway, if you're new here, I'm going to explain it to you, because that's my job. The Snyderverse timeline, as I repeated earlier, as I said earlier, is Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, the first Suicide Squad, the first Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, let's not mention Justice League again, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Aquaman, Shazam, all those movies. They're all in the Snyderverse, basically. Some are blatantly in the Snyderverse, like Shazam. I mean, you know, bless David F. Sandberg, there were a lot of cameos and Easter eggs from the Snyderverse in that movie, and apparently there's quite a few in Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that one. Some big cameos, but especially from Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. It's a great one at the end of the movie that you're really going to enjoy, unless they've changed something. Anyway, so that's where we are now. So after the Flash movie, we will still be within the Snyderverse timeline. Now, a lot of people are taking this as the Snyderverse is being restored by David Zaslav. Now, some very small, let's say, invalid publications are setting Snyder fans up for a fall and saying David Zaslav wants to restore the Snyderverse. Now, you don't know if that's true, and nor do I. I would love that to be true, because if you're going to continue with the DCEU, there's only one way to go. They're doing away with the Hamadaverse multiverse strategy, so they're sticking with the Snyderverse timeline, right? So why are they doing this? Because it makes more sense. It's less complicated to stick with the Snyderverse timeline. Again, here's two scenarios for you why Zaslav may be doing this. Number one, he plans to release all these movies, basically Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Flash movie, and Blue Beetle, then basically not touching the DCEU again, forgetting about that timeline after he releases all these films, and Peacemaker 2, right? And once they're all over, he will start again with a new timeline. He may even use Blue Beetle as part of that new timeline. We'll have to wait and see. That means the Snyderverse is dead, the Snyderverse timeline is dead, the DCEU is dead. Or he may continue the DCEU as is within the Snyderverse timeline permanently. He could bring in someone new to run DC Studios, so it's Snyder's actors and world, but it won't have anything to do with Snyder. But that's a dumb idea, which, you know, they tried doing that with Joss Whedon and Justice League, and look what happened there. They tried to take Snyder's work and make it into a bright little MCU shillfest, and it didn't work. So if you're going to stick with Snyder's actors and the Snyderverse timeline, Snyder must come back, restore his universe, and do his Justice League sequels 2 and 3. That's what you've got to do. And we want the Batman movie as well. And considering Affleck is now permanently the DCEU Batman, it's clear he will be interested in stepping back and making his the Batman movie, which will be very, very popular. So these are the scenarios, and these are the options. Now, I have to apologise, I don't have a definitive answer for you if Zaslav actually wants to restore the Snyderverse or will restore the Snyderverse. But we will wait and see. What are the odds? The odds of the Snyderverse being restored, as from what I'm hearing, are as good as anything else. Because the Snyderverse is dead. I've just explained that to you. It's all dead. So we're sticking with the Snyderverse timeline. So there's a little bit of a chance. There's many scenarios here, and anything can happen. But the sooner we know what's going on here, the better. Because fans are confused and they don't know what's going on. Because you and I may be in the know, but mainstream audiences don't understand the Snyderverse, the multiverse strategy, the Snyderverse timeline, and it's very damaging. The sooner they can tell people what to expect, the better. But we do know. So you're going to have to wait and see. If you do want the Snyderverse timeline to return, that's what's happening. Great news. If you want the Snyderverse restored, basically it's a 50-50 chance, and we still don't know what's going on. But my advice to you is not to swallow some of the crap you're getting from these little small publications, because nobody knows what's going on with the DCEU situation. And we wait with bated breath to see what the hell is going on. Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, nobody knew what kind of bloodbath David Zaslav would create once he and Warner Brothers Discovery were formed. We heard last night by multiple publications that Batman, the Caped Crusader, the animated series, which would be made by J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, who have been working together since they were 13 years old, and the legendary Bruce Timm, has been cancelled by HBO Max. Now, it's been cancelled by HBO Max, but it's going to be shopped around. Now, I found a quote from the most reliable journalist in Hollywood right now, Boris Kitt. So just to clarify the situation for you all, Batman Caped Crusader animated series, the show is not cancelled per sources, just not going to stream on HBO Max. The show is deep in production. Nothing is paused. It will show up somewhere. But this is very, very bad news for Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams, because this was going to be on HBO Max, which is the best platform for it. It could turn up on Cartoon Network that Warner Brothers partially own as well, or totally own. I'm not too sure about that. But they are involved with Cartoon Network. It could be that situation, but also it could turn up on Netflix. But also another scenario. Batman the Caped Crusader is kind of a sequel to Batman the Animated Series. They're using new technology. It's costing a lot of money, which means they're going to have to sell it for a lot of money, and there may not be any takers. So in a way, they have kind of, sealed this animated show's fate. Of course, I want to see this. It was very exciting, and people were very excited. But what does this mean for the future of Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams? This is not good, everyone. The Batman 2, we've learnt, hasn't been greenlit. It was greenlit by Emmerich before he left, but now it's in development hell. Now, officially, we're still getting Penguin on HBO Max and the Arkham Asylum streaming show on HBO Max as well. So, as I suggested the other day, maybe Matt Reeves' The Batman universe will be TV shows in episodic form over on HBO Max, and maybe they'll last for a little while, and that'll be that. But it's not looking good for Matt Reeves, and it's looking even worse for J.J. Abrams. We've discussed this many times. Zaslav does not like the deal that Abrams struck with Emmerich and Warner Brothers Pictures. He has got this really valuable first look deal, but it's not exclusive. He can go elsewhere and make other stuff. He's taken 2 or 3 years to even start developing his Constantine show, which apparently is being sped up in development. I'm still not sure that's ever going to happen, or any of his stuff's ever going to happen. Not only have HBO Max cancelled the Batman animated series, they've cancelled one of Abrams' non-DC shows as well. So Zaslav just doesn't like J.J. Abrams. You can tell, and he wants him out the company. And Matt Reeves' connection to Abrams isn't helping the case of Matt Reeves either. So we already know, discussing the possibility of restoring the Snyderverse. He wants one defined universe, and that's why the Snyderverse has got a really good chance of being restored. Because the Snyderverse, really, up to this point, is still canon. It's even canon, let's be honest about this, in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Peacemaker actually showed Zack's Justice League members, right? Or at least two of them up close. But everything in the DCEU up to now has been canon to the Snyderverse. One defined universe that they can make better. That's what they said at the the financial call that they had a couple of weeks ago, where they also announced they cancelled Batgirl. So yeah, it's not looking good for Matt Reeves or J.J. Abrams. I personally think, don't be surprised if they're both gone from this company sooner rather than later. I don't believe most of the DC projects that Emmerich greenlit are actually ever going to happen. And I'm talking about Black Canary, and I'm even talking about, this Justice League Dark Universe that J.J. Abrams was developing, using the word loosely developing, because he's done jack shit for 3 years, and this is another part of Zaslav's frustrations. And personally, I don't want a black Constantine, because Constantine isn't black. If you want to create black DC characters, fine, original ones, do the best that you can, or women, or other minorities, then do it. But this is typical. They're the ones who lose their collective shit if there's any whitewashing, right? You can't have your cake and eat it in life. So yes, Abrams and Matt Reeves are in a lot of trouble. And if you're a fan of theirs, and if you're a fan of the Batman movie, I think it's a very good movie, but I think it actually works as a standalone movie if we don't see anything else. I mean, I can tell you that Zaslav really likes Batfleck. He really likes BVS as well. It looks like this is the direction we're going. Alan Horn is his advisor. Alan Horn and Zack Snyder are very tight. Alan Horn brought Zack Snyder to Warner Brothers with the 300 movie that Zack made, one of Zack's best movies, and one of the best movies I've ever seen, right? Because Zack Snyder is a pioneer. They're facts. Like it or lump it. So that's where we are now. More cancellations, and the David Zaslav bloodbath continues. Hollywood is a very difficult place to work, and just under a week ago, Jordan Eslas quit his role as Jonathan Kent in Superman and Lois. Now, the word on the streets was he quit due to bad mental health. Now, none of his cast members have come out in solidarity to support him. So that tells you everything you need to know. So there's something dodgy about this departure. This is what Jordan had to say. It's been a tough few weeks, as you might imagine, with everything going on with the show. It's sad. It's a real shame. I know that I was pumped for season 3 for sure, but what are you going to do? Question mark. Anyway, mental health is definitely 100% priority. It's pinnacle. It's got to take precedence, and mine has been, the last couple of years, it's been rough. I need some time to myself. I'm still debating whether I'm even going to act for a while. I may go in a different direction. I know that's definitely going to be disappointing to some people. So it's all very, very interesting and suspicious, because he says he's leaving this show. He says he's going to take some time out and move away from acting for the time being, and may return to it at a later date. This to me stinks of, I've kind of been driven out of this show. I'll take a mental health break, and then I'll go and try and get a job somewhere else because they won't have me. That's what it seems to me. Now, I don't want to disrespect Jordan or anyone else who's had to quit a job or had to take, money, sick pay, via bad mental health. He could be genuine about this. But if it's the case that he had to quit the show via bad mental illness, right? Or just, he's just not feeling too good, he's mentally tired, why aren't his cast members, Tyler Hoechlin, Bitsy Tulloch, and the young man who plays his brother, and other cast members supporting him publicly? They normally do. They normally don't waste any time to virtue signal, right? So why are they leaving this young man out in the cold? It means something really bad has happened and he was removed. He was brilliant in this show. I can't accept anyone else in this role. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. That's why I won't be watching season 3 of Superman and Lois. This TV show was riding the crest of the wave. No controversy. Everyone liked the take of Superman and his new family and this Lois Lane that was introduced in Arrowverse. The only thing people were a bit bitter about, that it was confirmed at the end of season 2 that this really wasn't part of Arrowverse and it was a self-contained show. I like that idea because I just think having it part of Arrowverse, because of its tone and problems it's had really for many, many years now. I think the first 4 years of Arrowverse were fantastic. The first 2 seasons of Arrow were very compelling. Stephen Amell was sensational. And then the first 2 series of The Flash, but then it deteriorated politically and tonally as well. So I like that idea, but this is going to be a problem for people. Not many people are losing their shit. I think it's ironic that everyone lost their shit about a Hispanic actress losing her job as Batgirl. I do feel bad for her, by the way, especially with Ezra Miller keeping his job, but this is the industry. But this isn't a good look. It happened to Clayne Crawford, and it happened to Ruby Rose as well. A season after both those actors left their shows, they were over. It could be the same kind of eventuality for Superman and Lois. And Superman and Lois, as a Superman fan, I'll say this, is a great show. And most Superman fans have united in support. You know, we've had divisive reactions to Superman Returns, Man of Steel, that version of Superman. But this Superman and this adaptation of Superman has been welcomed. The 2 young men playing these characters have been embraced. All the actors, so it's been very successful and it's been non-divisive. Well, the honeymoon is over, Superman and Lois, and you're going to find it very difficult to continue without this young actor. And finally today, should we have a bit of a laugh, because the world needs a bit of a laugh. In an interview translated from French with script as seen on YouTube, Bilal Fallah, one of the directors for the recently cancelled Batgirl movie, revealed that his fellow director Adil Albi tried to get him to salvage some of the footage on his phone. Now, obviously they've taken tack from Zack Snyder, because he was doing this with his footage. He got all his footage. He was leaking some of it out. The difference is Zack had more ownership of his movies at DC because he was crafting them. Basically, these were just directors directing somebody else's script. Sadly, when Fallah went onto the server, everything was gone, including all of the scenes with Michael Keaton's Batman. I wonder who and what is responsible for that. No, we have nothing. Adil called and told me, go ahead, shoot everything on your phone I want on the server. Everything was gone. We were like, fucking shit. We did not even keep the scenes with Batman in it. Wow. In the same interview, the 2 directors confirmed that there were still additional scenes to be shot and almost no VFX was present. So even if they wanted to, they would not be able to release a finished film. That's the thing. It's not a finished movie. Now, one day, they may release some rough cut, or they may go back and do it. Who knows? I mean, it happened with the Donner cut, the Snyder cut. Unlikely, though, unless they're desperate for a buck or feeling really kind. The guys from Warner Brothers told us it was not a talent problem on our part or actress Leslie Grace or even the quality of the movie. We were right in the middle of editing. There was a lot of work to be done, so it was not like the movie was finished. Warner Brothers told us the cancellation was a strategic change, a shifting in management so they could save some bucks. So, was it a case of saving bucks, or was it a case that they wanted to change what they were doing with DC? Listen, if you don't understand what a merger does, basically every time there's a merger, and it happened when AT&T took over and formed Warner Media, there was a lot of redundancies at DC Comics and all over the company. It happens all the time, and it's been a rough few years for Warner Brothers employees because we had the AT&T buyout, and then we had this merger between AT&T and Discovery. So loads of people are losing their jobs. But what Zaslav is doing is beyond cutting costs for a merger. He's really going for it. And as I said earlier, this is a fucking bloodbath. So, it's just really, really, I don't know. Is it sad? Is it good? I mean, at the moment, everything that Zaslav's doing is to save a buck. He wants to, they spent a lot of money on this merger, so they're going to try and save as much as possible, then start launching what they're trying to do. It's not a good thing, because if we look at all the animated, forget like the Batman show that they've just kind of axed from HBO Max, and they're basically, by cancelling on HBO Max and selling it to someone else, they can make more money. And that's what they're playing at with that. But they've also cancelled Looney Tunes stuff, lots of stuff. He has no faith on any animation on HBO Max. He doesn't feel it will lure subscribers to the platform. I mean, with everything that's going on with streaming right now, I don't even think there's any profit in streaming. If I was running DC Studios and I had a choice either to to reload or reboot DC, I would probably reboot DC and start again. But I do find the idea of restoring the Snyderverse, or at least keeping the Snyder timeline, very exciting. And it looks like, at the very least, we are going, maybe just temporarily until they get through these movies, with the Snyder timeline. Now, whether or not we get something else, I suppose, depends on the success of these upcoming movies. Snyder is saying nothing. We don't know what's going on. But I think their intentions will be more clear when we find out who will be the DC Studios president. Until that time, keep it here on Movies TV Mad, where I will have all your DC updates. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you on Wednesday's show. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.